What's going on, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. There's a lot of new viewers, a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new people to collecting these graphic novels and collected editions. So I'm going to be doing a beginner's guide to collected editions. I'm going to be talking about some of the terminology that I use on my videos, because I know there's some confusion, talk about the direct market, book market, and all of that. So let's do this thing. And welcome back, everybody. Again, this is a tutorial, a beginner's guide for new collectors or new people that are buying these type of books of collected editions, graphic novels, omnibus, absolute editions. There seems to be so many new people, and I get questions every day, so I figured I'd make a video like this. This could also help as a refresher course for some of you all that have been collecting for decades and have no idea what the heck I'm talking about. So, I'm going to talk about some of the basics. And some of y'all are like, man, I already know that. I know, I realize that. But there's so many new people that don't understand some of the terminology. So now we can all be on the same page. So let's get started. Okay, we're starting with the basics. Single issues or floppies. These are the comics that come out every month, sometimes bi-weekly. But these are the ones that you can get at the comic book store. You can order online from a third-party market, on eBay if they're expensive. But these are books that are coming out periodically and I've called them floppies, I've called them single issues before. And when a bunch of these are put together, that's what makes up trade paperbacks. When they take a bunch of these single issues from a specific run or storyline, I'll talk about runs here in a second, and collect them in one trade paperback. And the trade paperback term, that really comes from the book world. They've always called them trades. They have soft covers. There's hardly any with hardcovers. Some of them do have some French flaps, but that's when a bunch of these are collected in a trade paperback. And I talked about runs, so let's explain that. A run could be talking about a creator. So, for example, Jonathan Hickman's run on Fantastic Four collected in trade paperback format and then in omnibus format. Or a run could be talking about a specific storyline. So it could be talking about the Kingdom Come 4-issue run. Of course, Mark Waid wrote all of this, but that's what I'm talking about when I say runs. And I've done a video on different collected editions. I need to update that to include everything, so just keep an eye out on the channel and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet for that reason. But really quickly, these trade paperbacks have a nicer edition, and they're known as standard size hardcovers. And as you can tell, they are the same size. They're standard size hardcovers. And it's the same thing. They collect this, for example, this is the post-Crisis on Infinite Earths Superman. But being a standard size hardcover means the trim size is about the same. And I'll talk about trim size here in a little bit. Now, one of the things that I get asked often is, why do I call these things graphic novels if they're not true graphic novels? And I'll explain that. So, for example, Pride of Baghdad is an original graphic novel, or OGN. And that means it was originally published like this, in this format, in this graphic novel format, not in single issues. So that term about the early aughts started changing because bookstores like Barnes & Noble or Borders started carrying more and more collected editions. And I guess they wanted to sell to the mass audience that, hey, these are novels, but they're graphic. So instead of calling them comic book collected editions, they started using the term graphic novels, and that kind of changed for everybody. So that's why I've been using the term graphic novels when talking about collected editions. But yes, there are such things as original graphic novels, such as this, or the case of X-Men God Loves, Man Kills was originally released as an original graphic novel. So OGN versus GN, and of course, they're all really collected editions. So, the main reason I wanted to talk about graphic novels and collected editions, that terminology, is because I don't want people lost when they go into the comic book store and start asking the person behind the counter, hey, where can I find that Batman graphic novel? Or where can I find that Superman graphic novel? Because immediately they're going to be like, which graphic novel are you talking about? And when you go to a bookstore, you can ask for the graphic novel section. So, that's why I wanted to talk about graphic novels versus the term collected editions. Now, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but when I talk about manga on my videos, I use the term Tankōbon. And Tankōbon is a term used to describe when manga is collected in this little soft cover, smaller size books. They were originally published in a magazine, and then eventually collected like our trade paperbacks, but they're known as Tankōbon. Now, there are deluxe editions of these Tankōbons, but I'll talk more about these things when I talk about the collected editions, and I'll put the link up to my original video of the different collected editions, and then I need to update it because now we have different ones and I want to include everything. And speaking of deluxe, that's the next step up from the standard size hardcovers is the deluxe editions. The deluxe editions hardcover, or the OHCS, oversized hardcovers, which you've probably seen me abbreviate on the channel many times. So again, HC hardcover, OHC oversized hardcover. The trim size on these are different than the standard size hardcover. They're bigger. These usually have a dust jacket, and I'll talk about those terms here in a little bit, and collect about 10, 12 issues. Sometimes some of the X-Men books collect about 30 issues. So the term is used very loosely, but that's what it means. These are the same. They have the height of an omnibus. Which takes us to our next type of collected edition, and that is the omnibus format. Probably why most of you are here watching this video, or why you decided to subscribe to my channel, because I talk about these very often. Both Marvel and DC are the ones that are known for kind of the same type of format and calling them an omnibus format, because there's softcover omnibus released from Dark Horse, and again I'll be doing a collected editions, the different types of collected editions, but that is the next step up. These usually collect about 30 to 50, sometimes a little more than 50, like the case of Flashpoint, like 56, or the case of War of the Realms, which was over 52 issues. But that's how many issues or floppies they collect inside of these omnis. And then, of course, the step up from there is the absolute editions, which come in the slipcase, and like I said, I'll be doing an updated different types of collected editions. Alright, so let's talk about the anatomy of an omnibus, because this is one that I get a lot of questions about, especially from the book collectors, like, why are you calling it that? So this is pretty interesting because sometimes people call them different things. So we have an omnibus, and same thing like it does, like the oversized hardcover. They have a dust jacket, and this is your dust jacket. So you have usually art on the cover of the dust jacket, and on the back cover, it's usually where you find your ISBN number, the price of the book. And then when you open up your dust jacket, sometimes they'll have artwork inside of the dust jacket, like the case of the Silver Surfer Parable. And then these are called your flaps. And this is where you'll find usually the bio of the people that are working on the book, and then little blurbs about the book and what you're going to find in here, which I find funny because you can't open these up. They're sealed in plastic when they come new. By the way, here's a quick tip. Always take your dust jackets off before reading. I realize they are there to protect the book, but you can crinkle them, you can get them damaged, you can accidentally rip them. Like, for example, right now my wife is going through this Spring of Spider-Man readathon, so she's reading a lot of my omnis, and I've just taken the dust jacket off the omnis, and I leave them on my shelf as place markers to let me know who is reading my books currently. Here is what the omnibus looks like under the dust jacket. So on the book, you've heard me talk about cover boards. We have the front cover board, and there's usually artwork. Sometimes there's not, and you have the back cover board. The other important thing I always talk about is the spine of the book, of the omnibus. And the spine is like your backbone. It really supports the book and all the pages, and I'll be talking about those here in a second. But that's what this is. This is the spine of the omnibus. And I know you're probably sitting there going, this is ridiculous. I already know this. I know, but it's really not for you then. It's probably for the beginners. We also have here, the other reason I'm doing this is because sometimes descriptions on eBay when people are selling books, third party, they talk about loose hinges and things like that. So this area right here, in the front and in the back, are known as the joints or the hinges. So you may see descriptions on eBay or on Amazon third party when somebody's using or selling a used book, rather, they talk about loose hinges. So that's something to always keep in mind. Those are your joints and your hinges. You have one in the front, open up the book, like a door hinge, and then in the back. All right, opening up the book, this is known as the block. That's where all the pages are collected and going up into the spine. And then up at the top on the opposite side of the spine is the foredge. That's what this area is called up here. That right there. When I open up an omnibus, I always talk about the book end pages, but what these really are end sheets. You have the fly leaf end sheet, which is not attached, and then the paste down end sheet. And also, here's your interior hinge or joint. Okay, so let's talk about the area of the book that a lot of people look for on my videos, and that is when I talk about the binding here. Most Omnis, of course, like I've always said, have sewn binding. Some OHCs have glued binding, but you can always tell by the way the leaves, or I'm sorry, when the pages are one sheet and they're folded, and all the bunches come together, all that into the signature, and all of that is put into the inner spine. So you can usually tell when they're sewn binding. And what I always talk about, and I get so much for this because I call it an eye. That's that right there, that inner spine's up at the top, outer spine down there. But I call this an eye, and I think in the book world they call it a tube. So, but if you come from the book world, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the tube when I'm talking about the eye, and that is that right there, that area right there. It's always good to have a big eye. Not too big. On about 100% of Omnis, you're going to find this glossy paper being used. Usually, the matte paper is found in trade paperbacks. That's where you usually find the matte paper. It feels very similar to the comic book paper of the 80s. Sometimes, especially in newer trades, such as this, they do use glossy paper. But it's a little bit thinner than what they use in the Omnibus or oversized hardcover editions. So let's talk about direct market versus book market. That's a term that I use all the time, and that confuses a lot of people. So the direct market here in America is where the printer sends the books from either Marvel or DC, and they distribute it out to places like your local comic book shop or cheapgraphicnovels.com or In Stock Trades or Tales of Wonder or DCBS. So places like that are the only places that get collected editions or comic books from the direct market. So the book market are places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. That's places outside of the direct market. So that's where the printer sends them, whether it's comics from or collected editions from Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, IDW, whatever publishing company. They send them over to a distribution center that only distributes to the book market. And that usually comes a couple of weeks later after the direct market, but not so much so in the case of DC. I think they released the direct market and the book market on the same day. Now, Marvel for a long time has been doing direct market covers and standard edition covers. So let's talk about that. That's one of the biggest questions I get when people watch my videos. They're like, what do you mean direct market? Where can I get that? So we're looking at Annihilation Conquest. The material in here is identical. It is the exact same book. The only difference is the dust jacket. So this is the dust jacket for the direct market. Again, only available through your local comic book shops or places like Cheap Graphic Novels, Tales of Wonder, In Stock Trades, and then the book market cover, which is available everywhere. This is also available at your local comic book shop, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Tales of Wonder, Cheap Graphic Novels. Usually these have a smaller print run because these are only available through the direct market, and then these have a bigger print run. But sometimes the regular standard edition covers sell out more than or faster than your direct market covers, depending on the cover that they use. Some people prefer the standard edition covers to the direct market covers. And it's all a matter of preference. And it's also a matter of accessibility, because I get a lot of viewers from Europe, Australia, Asia that have the hardest time trying to find these. And I think most places overseas only sell direct market covers, especially if your only place to buy collected editions is Amazon. So you may have to look for a third party like on eBay or Amazon Marketplace to try to find a direct market cover. Which takes me to my next point, and that is, what is the difference between out of print and out of stock? So OOP, out of print, I know you've seen that on my channel before, or OOS, out of stock. So usually when a book is out of print, it's been out of print for quite a number of years. I'll use the case of Wolverine. Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1 was out of print for 10 years. We had a reprint, or what is also known as a new printing, and the new print came out, it came out sometime last year. I want to say like May of 2020, and it sold out quick. But then we had a restock of it. So the book was only out of stock. It wasn't out of print. They didn't go back and reprint it. And you can usually tell the difference by the different ISBN numbers. And they're usually, remember when I showed you in the back, they're also in the front, but I didn't want to go that deep into the book anatomy. But that's how you can usually tell if a book is reprinted, or sometimes inside of the title page you can tell that it's first printing, second printing, third printing, but you have to open up the book out of its plastic to see that. But yes, the books, when they are reprinted, they will have, or have a new printing, they will have a different ISBN. When they're restocked, it just means that the distribution centers are out, and they are probably going to get more from the printer. And it's really difficult sometimes to tell if a book is really out of print or if it's just out of stock. And I triple check everywhere before I announce this book is really out of print, because there are no more printings coming out of this book. So always keep an eye. I usually talk about those on Saturdays, on our Saturdays live stream. I talk about what book is currently out of print, or what book is coming back with a new printing or a new stock. So again, that's really the differences. A book that is really out of print has been out of print for quite a number of years. However, that's not the case. These books have been selling out really quick, like the case of War of the Realms. That book is really out of print, and it was out of print within a month's time. The distribution centers, both in the book market and the direct market, just could not get any more from the printer. So that's when I'm always say, well, let's hope for a restock. But in this case, it will probably be a reprint or a new printing of War of the Realms. Just using that as an example. Now, for some of these books that you've seen me show today that are in print or coming back into print, don't forget to check out our sponsor. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was it. I hope I was able to clarify a lot of questions that I've been having. Again, I will be doing a separate video on the different types of collected editions or graphic novels, now that you know that term. That will be coming on the channel. I already had a video out last year or a couple of years ago, but I want to do an updated one just because there's so many different changes. But yes, if you have any more questions, please leave those questions down below. These are very important. And there's no such thing as a stupid question, especially for a beginner, because for me, even though I've been doing this for so many years, I'm still learning too. Like the book collectors love coming on my channel and saying, man, you were using this wrong. And sometimes I have to go back and forth. Sometimes I have to swallow my pride and be like, yeah, I've been using that term wrong. You're right. So it's all about learning. No matter how long you've been collecting, no matter if you're just started collecting this week or if you've been collecting for 35 years, it's all about learning, right? Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button. We are on Patreon and on Spreadshop, and those are amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. Thank you so much to our existing patrons. I couldn't do videos like this if it wasn't for you all. More importantly, everyone, stay healthy, stay safe. Much love.